Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan, and I'm your host for this live stream on Postgraduate Research, and I'm a member of the marketing team here at DMU. We're joined by Alissa Clarke this morning. Alissa, could you just introduce yourself and give us an overview of your role at DMU and a little bit of background on your career so far?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jordan. So I'm Alissa Clarke. I am based in the Faculty of Arts, Design and Humanities. I'm an Associate Professor in Drama, but I also juggle other roles. So I'm also Director of our Drama Research Group, and I'm Faculty Head of Research Students, which I think is why Jordan has asked me to chat today. As part of my role, I also undertake research myself. My research areas are interdisciplinary. So whilst I'm based in arts, design and humanities, like a number of you, I'm also interested by the research in other faculties. So my research projects also stretch over into the Faculty of Chem, so Computing, Engineering and Media, where I work with CAFI, the Cinema and Television History Research Institute. My research is really interested in performance process, gender and the body, in live performance spaces and on screen. And you can probably see behind me a film poster that points you to an interesting classical Hollywood cinema.
Perfect. And could you just give us an overview of the journey you've taken to get where you are today?
Yeah, so I imagine, like a number of you, I kind of travelled through a postgraduate journey from my BA, which was a joint honours student in drama and English, through to an MA in theatre practice, had a bit of time away and reflection space, and moved on to doing a PhD with a real strong sense that this is where I wanted to be. I really loved being in a research environment and wanted to have an academic career afterwards. My academic career has been for the majority of the time at Montfort, because I'm so happy here.
That's great. And then, so with this stream concerning postgraduate research, could you provide sort of an overview on what postgraduate research is, the different pathways students take to undertake a postgraduate research degree, and then postgraduate research here at DMU?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the distinctive thing about postgraduate research is its focus on a journey of independent research. So unlike a taught research program at master's level, where you're very much guided by modules and projects set by other people, this is your opportunity to deep dive into your own individual project that is going to make an original contribution to knowledge. That's key. It's going to build on the research that's already out there in your field, or potentially fields if your work is interdisciplinary, and it's going to make its own distinctive contribution to that field. It's going to plug particular gaps. For you who are interested in that might be at master's level. So you might be really ready to undertake a research project directly after having done a BA or a BSc a while ago. And you really want to do a master's by research as opposed to a taught program. This is currently available in 2 of our faculties, and we're building on it being available across the university. But I would imagine the majority of people here are particularly interested in PhD programs. This really is a kind of full-on immersion, deep dive into a project of your choice. By and large, PhDs will last 3 to 4 years full-time, 5 to 6 years part-time. We have a number of routes through to PhD. So you have your conventional PhD, which might be a traditional, fully written thesis that you produce at the end of it, or a practice-based PhD where traditionally you might undertake something like 3 practical projects and use the practice as an investigative tool. Outside these kind of more traditional PhD frameworks, we also have a really exciting new PhD, which is a PhD by extended professional practice for people who have been working in the industry for a number of years, have a really exciting, substantial body of experience, of knowledge, which has been coming anyway from a research perspective. And this particular PhD offers an opportunity to reflect back on that body of knowledge and to highlight to an academic community and the world beyond it how hard you've worked on creating this body of knowledge, this body of practice. We also have a PhD by concurrent publication, which is what it says on the tin. and a PhD by published works, where potentially you have already produced a substantial series of publications that might be creative publications or academic. And again, the PhD provides a really fruitful opportunity to reflect in depth on those works. We also have a PhD as a doctoral of health science, which is rooted in our Faculty of Health and Life Science, and also an iPhD. So that's either an international PhD or PhD by distance learning, where you would have two supervisors based at DMU, but could be yourself situated anywhere you like in the world. That's often very fruitful for people who potentially have key research connections in a certain country. And of course, over the last few months during this COVID context, where we've realised that so much of our life is operating online, actually the iPhD makes a really exciting, fruitful virtue of this situation. So those are the different PhD journeys. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Alissa. That was great. So from working at DMU, when I'm on campus or in the office, I'm always hearing people talk about some of the fantastic research projects that they're involved in. Could you give a few examples of perhaps some that you or your colleagues have been involved in, and that students can expect to be involved in when they study for a postgraduate research degree here at DMU?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm also really excited by the work that's going on at DMU. I think particularly one of the core things to flag up is the way in which a number of our research projects around the university are invested in impact beyond the academic sphere. They're really interested in a relationship with communities around us, connections with the industry, and the way in which research projects can have a significant multitude of impacts, often in a social sphere, and ways in which they might connect to with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in areas of ecology, sustainability, rights of gender, access to clean water and food. We've got some amazing research projects in these areas, but probably the most useful thing that I can say is that we've got 4 different faculties within the university. So I've mentioned arts, design and humanities. We've also got the Faculty of Health and Life Science, business and law, and as I mentioned before, computing, engineering and media. And within each of those faculties are a number of research institutes, which collect together an amazing wealth of research expertise and research staff. So actually, as a prospective research student, one of the kind of most exciting and fruitful things that you can do is have a look at the various research institutes within faculties across the university and think about, where do your research interests sit? Who might best help you within one of those faculties and within the research institutes, and also potentially across research institutes, because there's some really exciting research projects taking place across research institutes. But maybe if I'm going to pluck out a few of my favourites, which Jordan suggested that I did, you might be particularly interested in the way in which in Chem, the IOCT Centre has been increasingly collaborating in the areas of AI, robotics and virtual reality. There's some fantastic research actually in there as well, across film studies and music, focusing particularly on marginalised sections of society, including women. In fact, there's some really interesting research being conducted around the area of Me Too, post-Me Too, if we believe that that's such a thing. There's also some really exciting work in the Cyber Technology Institute in this faculty, has really strong industry links, and has been recognised as one of the centres of excellence in cybersecurity research. So that's me kind of cherry picking from Chem. If I'm going to cherry pick from business and law, then I would think about the way in which business and law are really connecting with some super topical issues, and adding their own perspective, really digging deep into some of the concerns and core debates that we're having. There's a really fascinating research project into modern slavery, which certainly connects with recent news articles around problematic industrial behaviour and treatment of workers within certain industrial contexts. There are projects engaging with the Build Back Better agenda, thinking both about sustainability and people's access to housing. As well, there's also some really interesting research being conducted around COVID attitudes, the way in which people's lifestyles and perspectives have shifted and changed in the context of COVID. And this recently received, in fact, national press attention. Then if I'm going to move to health and life science, there's some kind of really wonder projects taking place within that faculty. So if I think about, this is the one that kind of is really intriguing me at the moment. They're like business and law, thinking about the impact that the pandemic is having on diet and lifestyle, with lab projects at the moment exploring the benefits that elderberries have on fighting COVID. Kind of really fascinating. There's some research being taken by the Integrated Centre and the Institute of Pharmaceutical Innovation into dried blood spot analysis, which is helping the treatment of sick newborn babies. And that was recently shortlisted for a really prestigious Times Higher Education Award. It's kind of another sort of wonder project. We've had the development of the world's first artificial pancreas to improve treatment for those living with diabetes. And then if I slide from those wonder projects into ADH, where we have 5 research institutes, I'll try and select a few projects across ADH, Arts, Design and Humanities. So in the Institute of Architecture, which also has strong links with the other 3 faculties, there's some really fantastic interdisciplinary research taking place there. There's, cutting edge expertise, particularly around housing and dwelling, cities and urbanism, architectural geometry, and really topically, low impact built environments for people who are struggling economically, which feels essential right now. If I think about art and design, you might like to check out Martin Richardson's awe-dropping, awe-inspiring work around holographic display technology. And this is in one of the few holographic research projects and centres in Europe. There's some kind of incredible strands around photographic history in that institute, partly inspired by some incredible archives that institute has. And for those of you who are fascinated by archival research, drop me some questions about that, because Kathy and Kim also have incredible links with archives too. And I should also mention, we've got one of our professors in that institute has also just been shortlisted for a really prestigious prize for her work in photographic and visual arts. In drama, dance and performance studies, there's some really exciting work being undertaken in dance and the African diaspora. Again, actually with one of our institute members who's just won a significant prize in this area. Some really exciting, groundbreaking research around considering and making space for women, trans, non-binary voices and practices in contemporary and historical performance. And a significant project with health and life science, looking at mental health and resilient narrative around migrants in India and drawing on community theatre methodologies. And then if I hop from that to English, I talked about brilliant archives earlier. I might flag it up their extensive Andrew Davies archive and the materials that researchers are working with in that area by this award-winning director, writer, all-round key film practitioner. As well as some fantastic research around the modern resurgence of Gothic literature, Shakespeare, Renaissance literature, British socialist movement and literature. Some kind of wonderful research, really rich area. And then finally, history, which has been conducting groundbreaking work around internment in the First World War. That feels particularly timely as we move towards the 11th of November. The history of Montenegro, cultural exchanges in the Indian Ocean world, history and heritage of the Olympic Games. Again, there's some really cutting edge work being conducted into sports history. As well, some really fascinating and vibrant work around the history of women, fashion consumption, and material culture in the 18th and 19th centuries, and race, ethnicity, and immigration in Britain and sport, and the leisure history really of Western society. And that actually brings me really nicely, because Jordan asked me about the Stephen Lawrence Research Centre, which sits outside all of the faculties, but actually has core connections with each of them. And the Stephen Lawrence Research Centre is, as you might imagine, holds a number of multidisciplinary researchers whose work is engaged with debating critical issues, raising awareness and promoting positive change around perspectives and experiences of race and social justice. So again, some absolutely essential research that's taking place there. Hopefully, that's really kind of tempted you towards all the fascinating research taking place across the university and to dig deeper yourselves. Yeah, thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Alissa. Sounds like some really interesting stuff going on right now. Aside from studies, one of the most important things I think for any student is the support package around them. So could you cover the kind of support we offer students here at DMU?
Yeah, I think that's a core question, particularly perhaps in the current challenging context in which we sit. As a PhD student coming in, and actually on your process towards applying, I think you want to know that you're being holistically supported in every way towards your research journey. So one of the ways I would say in which we offer support are via guiding you towards different funding streams, whether you're an international student or a home or EU student. That's something I can talk about in further depth, but frequently there might be research projects that staff are undertaking with research scholarships attached. We might also have details of international research pots of funding to which you can apply. There's also, and I can say a bit more about this if you're interested later on. There's also just been announced Midlands 4 cities. So we're part of this consortia of universities engaged in funding that is part supported by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, which has supported a number of our students in arts, design and humanities, and also in chem and business and law. But there are a number of streams there that you might want to consider. If you are a returning DMU student, you might also have access to our VC 2020 scholarship reduction on fees. Again, I think that the fantastic Jordan and Charlotte behind the scenes will provide some details to that too. But in terms of, I suppose, pastoral care and well-being, I really want to flag up our fantastic well-being team who offer bespoke workshops for postgraduate students, as well as opportunities to touch base one-to-one. There's a fantastic counselling service. Also, for those of you who are developing your academic English, you might want to touch base while you're doing your PhD and indeed towards the process of developing your topic proposal with CEL, the Centre for English Language and Learning. We also have what's called CLASS, the Centre for Language and Study Support, which offers a brilliant range of workshops and one-to-one opportunities to develop skills in terms of proofreading, planning, drawing out your voice across the year. Yeah, and probably in terms of other support and well-being, I want to mention kind of social activities. So we've just revived our PhD Society. So it gives you an opportunity to tap into another way of thinking about your research community that you're part of at DMU. But also within the faculties, your supervisor and fellow PhD students will guide you towards various activities that are taking place, whether that's postgraduate socials, writing retreats, which we're currently doing online. There are some really brilliant doctoral training programs. So one that we've been working on in particular recently is around practice-based research. and involved a kind of induction for new students via a showcase and debates around what we consider practice-based research to be in different disciplines. But yeah, you might also want to touch base with societies. I'm thinking in my area, there are some brilliant ones in musical theatre, drama society, various different artistic and sporting societies, really, to give you that holistic support while you're doing your PhD.
Thanks for that comprehensive overview there, Alissa. I've just got a few frequently asked questions I'd like to ask you if we could. The first one is, what would your top tips be for producing a research proposal?
That's a brilliant question. So firstly, my main top tip would be to find yourself your supervisor who's going to help you with preparing towards the PhD. I would say that this is something that is best done in dialogue with a prospective supervisor. So sometimes PhD students do submit a PhD application and proposal before speaking to someone within the institute and the faculty that they're applying towards. But actually, I would say make that contact, start that dialogue, have a look at our Research Institute pages, see who the Institute Head of Research students is or point of contact listed, and they will help start a dialogue with you to think about a prospective supervisory team. And that supervisory team, and particularly a first supervisor, will help you start to develop your ideas in terms of a research proposal. They'll help you, I would say, towards what is a kind of stepping stone process, thinking about maybe starting at a place of bullet pointing key ideas, moving towards fleshing those out by thinking about who are the key thinkers or practitioners or both in your field whose work that you want to draw on and build on. How can your research proposal also indicate the core thing that I mentioned earlier? What's the original contribution to knowledge that this PhD will make? And also flagging up, why are you uniquely placed, as you will be from your previous experiences, to do this PhD? What has helped you in terms of previous degrees that you've undertaken, professional industry experience that you've had, maybe engagement that you're already having in research symposia? What are those things that have taken place that you've experienced? How have they helped prepare you towards doing the PhD? And have a think about, in terms of the proposal, why we as a university are best placed to help you undertake this PhD. What might be the timeline? What's going to be your research journey for this PhD? So if you think about the fact that if you were undertaking a full-time PhD and you're aiming towards 3 to 3.5 years, possibly 4, what are you going to be doing over the trajectory of those years to help you answer what might be the core research questions underpinning your research project? What methods might you need to adopt in order to carry out your project? Do you need to consider ethics as part of those? I mean, we all do, but maybe particularly if you're undertaking interviewing processes, for example, and to think about how those methods might be undertaken currently within a COVID context. That is probably my kind of off the top of the head, my research tips. Thank you, Jordan.
Wow, thank you, Alissa. So my next question, probably the last we've got time for, is around employment. So what kind of jobs can graduates expect to get following the completion of a postgraduate research degree at DMU?
Yeah, I think that's a really useful question, because we might assume that someone doing a PhD will automatically want to move towards an academic career. And that's certainly one of the journeys that we'll be helping prepare you towards while you do your PhD, through experiences around the PhD in terms of learning how to disseminate your research via conferences, national and international, and opportunities to share your research within the faculty. Helping you develop towards sharing your research through publications. That could include practice-based publications as well, or presenting your work at festivals or in industry contexts or via public engagement. So we'll be thinking about the skills and the skill set that you might need, including teaching experience, towards an academic career. So that would be, I suppose, the logical outcome. But actually, a number of our students become hugely excited or enter the PhD, thinking about this as being a stepping stone into other careers, which might include jobs within a publishing context. We recently had a brilliant employability fair for our PhD students and had a fantastic talk from Helen Beddoe at Emerald Publishing, who talked about her own research trajectory from a PhD and postdoctoral study, which might be something else you want to consider after the PhD, but that often being a really logical stepping stone into academic publishing and the exciting kind of different opportunities that might offer. Students who are really fascinated by archival research might be thinking about the ways in which their PhD might direct them towards being positioned within some kind of archive, whether that's within a university or outside it. A number of students coming to us, particularly if you have a substantial body of industry practice behind you, might be thinking actually about the ways in which you're going to draw your PhD experience into your practice outside academia, into the role that you already have. So that's about ways in which you might be developing your own reflexive self as a practitioner, that the learning that you have on the PhD will substantiate and develop the position that you already have outside an academic context. You might also be looking towards roles in businesses. So I'm thinking again of our employability fair. We had a fantastic talk from someone who was part of a core architectural and sustainable development business. So it might be that the PhD for you actually is a way of taking time to undertake a project that is going to give you significant added value when you look for a role within the industry. So those are probably some of the roles that I would pick out for now, but just to emphasize that whilst an academic post might be, I suppose in the past might have been our traditional expectation, now PhD students gain so many different skills and opportunities for deep self-reflection, research, all those transferable skills, which would be really magnify your opportunities in professional employment outside academia too.
Perfect. Thank you, Alissa. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. I'd like to say a massive thanks to Alissa and everybody who tuned in this morning. And if there's anything else you need to know, please head to our website, which is dmu.ac.uk, or pop along to our YouTube channel or social media channels. Have a great day, and we hope to see you all at DMU soon.
Thank you all. Thanks, Jordan. Bye.